Becoming You Beyond Deconstruction, because deconstruction isn't the end goal. Living a vibrant, soul-aligned life is.
Welcome back to another episode of Becoming You Beyond Deconstruction. So in this episode, which is going to be the final episode probably in a while, I want to come back and explore the concept of faith, just revisit it and share some of my thoughts and insights that I've gained on the journey. Back in January, I posted about a challenge that I'm going through, which is around conception, trying to conceive. And I really noticed a few things around my own sense of faith and groundedness and trust that felt different to maybe what that experience would have been like prior to this journey. And it's been that awareness of the shift, plus some other things that have come over the last few months. There's been a number of deaths in my family that have really made me think a lot more about this idea of faith and how my faith has shifted and transformed over time. And that's what I want to talk about and revisit in today's episode. And I think it's a nice closing point, because part of what's been happening to me has been an awakening. And I wrote about that on one of the last written posts entitled Second Awakening, on my second awakening, where I do speak about this fertility challenge that I'm experiencing and how that has shifted my faith. And I'm very, very aware of a kind of metamorphosis, of a change, stepping into a new season or level, even though I kind of don't like that terminology. But I thought it would be a nice way to close out this podcast. And I don't know whether there'll be some more in the future, but for right now, it just feels like I'm ready to bring this part of my journey to a close. And I know that faith is a very sensitive topic, and it can be immensely triggering depending on your experiences and where you are in the journey. And I would just like to invite you to know that I'm sharing from my own experience and where I've landed right now. And it's not for you to take what I'm saying as gospel or truth or anything. In fact, take what you want to take, leave what you don't want to take. And it may be that you come back to it at a later time, or you never come back to it, and that's totally fine and okay. I just feel like I want to share, and I'm ready to share, and I need to share this and put it out in the universe so that the universe knows, okay, I'm owning where I am. And yeah. So for those of you who haven't read that post that I mentioned, Second Awakening, I just want to read an extract from it. And this extract really marks some of the tension or the push and pull that I felt around understanding what faith is, especially coming from a Christianized background where there's a very specific definition of what faith looks like and how we prove our faith as well. So please excuse me, I do have a little cough, so that's why I'm clearing my throat. When I threw out the Christianese, when I acknowledged the fear and uncertainty that they, the doctors, the scientists, whoever, could be right, and I might never be able to have another child, underneath it all, there was something that lived, a heartbeat that I could hear in the silence, slowly and steadily beating. Its rhythm softly and quietly letting me know that I didn't need to give up, that I could still hold belief in my hands and have hope, that I didn't need to spit in the eye of reality and stand firmly on the opposite side of the ring to prove my faith. I didn't even need to look at it if I didn't want to, but all I had to do was hold on to this seed of hope. So this is very different from what faith felt like for me when I was ensconced in the church and Christianity, because this feels like I've landed in a place of soft, still, and quiet knowing. Whereas when I was within the church and Christianity, it really taught me to look at faith through two lenses. Either faith could be considered a superpower where you could work miraculous wonders, or it was a divine gift. No matter which of these lenses that we look at, the underlying belief behind faith is this idea that it's supernatural. So, and when I talk about supernatural, I'm really talking about like mythic, otherworldly, magical, can like do amazing, powerful, strong, miraculous things, basically. Who hasn't heard the saying that faith can move mountains? But the funny thing is that whilst there is this belief around the supernatural, miraculous quality of faith, which is, I guess, what Christians just strive to have, because it kind of proves that you are a child of God and all the rest, I am yet to find somebody or to read of anyone, including Jesus, who could move a mountain with their faith. Even though that's never happened, it's never been the case as far as I'm aware, this hasn't stopped the desire to have this kind of faith, or even the idolization of people who are believed to have this kind of faith, because it's like you have like a special anointing on your life. You are specially loved and chosen of God, that He has gifted you with the miraculous power to do feats and wonders, basically. It's a lot like having the power to heal or prophesy. It's like a badge of honor. I'm a man of faith. I'm a woman of faith. I'm a person of faith. Look at me. See how special I am. See how gifted I am. I spent quite a lot of time, especially around the end of my Christian journey, when I was developing an awareness of this isn't where I am choosing to be anymore, that I really found myself surrounded by people who desired to have this kind of faith, and it was in their language. They spoke about the concept of now faith, and I think I've written about it. I've done an episode about it previously before. I remember an incident with a dear friend around that time that really opened my eyes to the toxicity and the destructiveness of this idea of faith. And my friend at that time had been in hospital for a while, sick, and nobody knew what was wrong with her. Even her medical team, of course, nobody knew what was wrong with her. But the Christians that she was surrounded with, and my friend as well, because she was quite strong in the home church. So I stepped away from organized church, but even stepping away from organized church and going into the home church community still had its issues. Yeah, so she was sick and in hospital, and because she was a leader in the home church community, there were lots of people that wanted to come and to pray for her. So she was constantly surrounded by people who were praying for her and were adamant that she was going to get better and that this was going to be a mighty miracle and a mighty move and testimonial for God, so people could see the power of God and everything like that. But something inside of me quietly disagreed. I just looked at the situation and it just didn't look like she was going to recover, but I couldn't say that because that would mean that I didn't have enough faith. And at the time, I just didn't want to place myself in that situation where I was coming up against so many other people with quote unquote strong faith. So eventually, my friend, she did pass away, leaving a child and a husband. You would think that the people that surrounded her would stop and allow her family to grieve, but that wasn't the case. They decided that they had the faith to raise her from the dead. So they went back to hospital room and prayed over her dead body. And I don't know how long they prayed for, but she didn't come back to life. For me, that was a step too far. That was a step too far because, I mean, I don't even need to say because it was just a step too far. But I'm sure many people esteemed the behavior because they thought, oh my gosh, yeah, they really do have strong faith. The fact that they would open themselves up to criticism or ridicule shows that they really believe in what they're doing. I mean, even if it didn't work, they still believed in what they were doing enough to go and try it out. But as I said, this experience just left me with this sense that I just didn't want to be connected anymore to all of this stuff. If this was what faith was and what faith looked like within the lens of Christianity, I didn't want to be connected to that anymore. And it really makes me think, so why do people desire this type of faith anyway? I mean, what's so good about being able to work miraculous wonders? I mean, stop and think about it. What's so good about it? What's the benefit of it? So I have my own theories. For one, I believe that it points back to their own woundedness and it highlights a level of insecurity and a need for external validation and love that they might not, probably didn't, if my experience and the people that I could think of who gravitated towards this kind of faith are any example. I really think that there were issues of not receiving validation and love when they were young. But also, what is often not mentioned underneath the pursuit of this type of faith is a desire of power and control. I mean, when we think about it, we know that people who have experienced like trauma or abuse, neglect, any kind of childhood adversity, there's a lot of anxiety and stress that comes with that. And then that kind of leads to a desire to want to control situations and to kind of feel powerful. And sometimes that can lead to manipulation and coercion and some other things. And all of that, I feel, is just a sign of like deep wounding and insecurity. And I know because I've spoken about my own experiences of childhood adversity, and I know that I still struggle with certain things, and the awareness obviously helps me, but it's still there. It's still something that I have to deal with and move past when it comes up. So I feel like all this is there, the insecurity, the woundedness, and the need for the power and the control. But what this really is covering over is immense fear. Because when we think about it, isn't calling someone a man or woman or person of faith another way of saying that they are a person of great power? I can't help but wonder whether this is another face of patriarchy disguised as religious belief and further. Because if the pursuit of faith is really just about power and control because of the undercurrent of fear that lives underneath it all, then where is the actual faith or trust? Aren't we then just trusting in our strength and power, our ability to control things that feel difficult or challenging or scary or threatening or uncertain for us? The chaos of this world. Aren't we just looking to have that faith in order to make things feel less chaotic and more comfortable for us? Isn't this just another way of trying to control pain or difficulty that comes our way? And if so, isn't this the complete opposite of faith, belief, and trust? When I used to pursue faith, it was mostly always because I felt like if I could reach a certain level of faith, then I'll be able to tap into this supernatural power where I could think a thing or speak it or believe it, and it would inevitably happen. This, I feel, is like the believer's dream, right? And actually, don't we also see this in the New Age space where it's all about manifesting anything that we want, any desire that we want, using the law of attraction? Underneath all of this, isn't it the same desire to control and shape our life because we're afraid? We're afraid of life. We're afraid of what might come our way. We're afraid of not being able to manage situations or to manage challenges or difficulties. We're afraid of losing control and being weak, vulnerable, alone. The funny thing is that as much as I tried to develop this flavor of faith, I knew deep down inside that I couldn't believe, that I didn't believe. I mean, I couldn't make miraculous things happen just by thinking it. I couldn't. I think I even was in the law of attraction for a while. And after a while, things that people were saying just began to annoy me because no, life doesn't work like that. From a Christian perspective, it was just like, okay, if I can't believe in the way that people are saying that I should believe, then doesn't that mean that I'm doomed because nothing that I want, nothing that I desire will ever come to pass because I just don't have that faith that can move mountains and make stuff happen? But it turned out that the answer was no, that I didn't need to have that kind of faith. The funny thing was letting go of that striving for faith in that way and letting go of the people that constantly echoed these words and these fears and anxieties around that kind of faith to me was what gave me the space to begin to quote unquote manifest, bring in, create the things that I desired, make space for the things that I desired in my life. The thing that I've noticed about Christian faith is that it kind of offers no in between. There are no shades of grey. You are either in or you're out. You're either doing it the right way or you're not. The other thing that I've noticed is that this kind of faith asks you to trust and to believe, even when it doesn't feel safe to. And when I say feel safe to, I mean it doesn't feel safe in your body. It doesn't feel right in your body. Something inside of you is at war with this kind of push to make yourself go, yes, I believe. I mean, if you've ever gone to like a healing rally or something like that, where a pastor, especially pastors, they're very good at trying to make you say that you've been healed when you know that you're still feeling the symptom in your body, then you kind of have an idea of what that feels like, what that dissonance feels like in your body. There's this force to feel, there's this force to kind of say that you're standing in faith, you're standing on faith, when actually it just doesn't feel good inside of you. It just doesn't feel right, and it just doesn't feel safe. It's faith that you try to believe in your mind, but nothing else inside of you believes. Your body doesn't believe. Your heart, your soul doesn't believe, but you're forcing yourself to believe. So that's like the first lens where faith is seen as like a supernatural power or superpower. Then there's the other lens where faith is seen as a divine gift, a gift from God. What's funny about this lens is the idea that actually you have to be specially chosen to receive this gift of faith. It's not available for anyone. only select few that have been gifted with the Holy Spirit, because it's a gift of the Holy Spirit. It's a gift given via the Holy Spirit. It's kind of like your seal that you know that you are chosen and special and favored and loved by God. And we've got scriptures like Ephesians 2:8-9 says, by grace you've been saved through faith, and not of yourselves. It is the gift of God, not a result of what you do, so that no one can boast. Yet we know full well that there's a lot of boasting that happens when people feel especially gifted in the area of faith. And there's the idea of chosenness and specialness, which means that you often find people looking down at others, whether that's other people in the church community or people in the secular world who are led astray. But I have a question. If faith is a gift from God, then why do people lose their faith? Surely, if faith is a gift from God, then the only time that a person can lose their faith is that if God takes faith away from them, and then can they be blamed for that? I can remember a few years back, my husband told me a story of someone that he knew who had lost their faith, and he didn't go into detail, but I kind of got the impression that something truly bad must have happened to her to make her lose her faith. And I felt very compassionate towards her, but I didn't understand. I just couldn't understand how you could go from believing to not believing. I reckon that's what people think about me too. I was quite visible, especially online, but also offline. I was in ministry, I was teaching, I was singing, I was doing different things. Online, I had like a couple of Facebook groups, I was doing coaching and some other things as well. I was pretty visible when it came to talking about God and faith and things like that. Even though I was on the verge, and people probably said that I was still a little new agey and a little non-traditional, but I was visible. So I wouldn't be surprised if people come across my content now and they think, actually, what happened to her? Something bad must have happened to her. I mean, I could get offended by it, but I don't. And here's why. Firstly, their questions are about them. It's not about me. It's about their lens, their experiences, and how they view the world to date. I know that even though I never managed to get mountain moving faith, that I did, and I still do believe in God or higher power or whatever, I still totally have respect for Jesus. Whether he was a real person or not, doesn't matter to me. I still have a respect for the idea of Jesus. And there are things about religion that I find truly beautiful and transcendental that I love and that I would love to partake in. Even now, I'm considering going on a spiritual retreat, and it's okay with me if I end up in a monastery or somewhere like that. because, yeah, that's where I am in my faith journey. And that leads me, I guess, to like the second thing. And it's this feeling that I have inside of my body that lets me know that, okay, let me start again. It is a feeling, and it's a feeling of deep knowing that lets me know that this is what faith means to me. This is what it means to believe and to trust. It's got nothing to do with my mind. It's all about what's going on inside of my body, inside of my heart. It doesn't feel like something I'm forcing myself to do. It doesn't feel like something I'm forcing myself to feel or believe. It's not a cerebral thing at all. If you were to ask me, Florence, so what does faith, trust, or belief feel like then? I would say, for me, it feels like it's an expression of acceptance. Faith feels like an expression of acceptance. And this has really come from or sprung out from a journey of learning how to connect with and commune with the natural rhythms and forces of life. You might have heard me say it before or see me write it in my other post where I talk about life with a big L. I believe that everything that exists has faith to be. That it's not something that only a select few people have to move mountains or make miraculous things happen. A tree, a flower, a seed, a bird, a river, they all have faith, and that faith doesn't push or strive to make things happen. That faith allows them to be. You might recall back in episode 10 in the podcast, I shared my thoughts on the 3 different ways that I was envisioning viewing God and how each of them impacted who I allowed myself to be. Each of them impacted how I showed up in the world, whether God was this, whether God was a deity that was distant from us, or whether God is a benevolent force, or so many other things. Please go back and listen to it again. But what I have found that by giving myself this space and opportunity to really ask myself, so who is God? What is the nature of God? What do I think and believe about the nature of God? Letting go of all the ways that I've been taught to view God, even stuff as God as goddess and all that kind of things, just allowing myself to discover for myself who God is, based on my experience of life and my connection with nature, the universe, with everything. It's enabled me to land on a conception of God that feels really true and life-giving to me, which has taken away so much of that anxiety, that dread, that fear that led me to pursue faith in that Christianized way, that if I had faith, then I can make things happen, and that will mean that I will be able to avoid suffering and struggle and pain and things like that, because all of that, it just really comes from fear. And that fear really comes from the belief that nobody else has my back, that this world is a chaotic and dangerous place, and if I don't do it, no one else, nothing else is going to do it for me. I mean, how many times have we prayed to God desperately, keening cries, pleading, desperate cries and prayers, begging, bargaining, and we haven't received? What has that taught us? It's only increased our fear and our anxiety, our distrust, the God? How can we experience those things on one hand and then believe and trust what people tell us about the goodness and the power of God on the other side? There's so many conflicting things that it just causes dysregulation in our body. It just continues to re-traumatize and trigger us. I needed to allow myself to let go of all of that so I could find a way to discover something that felt safe, good, and right for me. And that's what enabled me to land in this soft, quiet, and still place where I understand that faith is an expression of acceptance. So, what do I mean by that exactly? So, to me, faith is a form of listening and responding to what we hear and see in relation to this life energy. So we'll go back to this idea of life with a capital L. And for me, although I no longer see God as like a discrete entity or being, but more as kind of like an impulse, an energetic impulse, the universe's impulse towards life, sustaining life, creating life, the cycle of life. The universe has will, purpose, and it has its own impulse that enables it to continue to create and sustain life. And so for me, faith is about learning how to reconnect to this impulse. It's about learning how to listen and respond to this impulse in the way that this impulse communicates through life, through the universe, through other people around. We are not disconnected from life. We are not disconnected from all the expressions of life that we see, yet we believe that we are disconnected. So this faith is about resting and being still or responding based on what it receives from the field of life. And I actually feel that this type of faith is the one that requires the most trust because we are letting go. We are letting go of trying to fix it and do it for ourselves. And that's why I said it's really about, it's an expression of acceptance. It feels scary and it feels counterintuitive and it brings up so much emotion. There is so much emotion that comes with it. I go through stages where I'm feeling totally euphoric or I'm feeling totally grounded and still and in peace and joy and all the good things, just so connected. And I go through times when I'm just feeling so low because I can't do all the things, or it's not I can't do all the things, but I know now the futility of trying to control, shape, or manage things that I really have no control over. And so instead of trying to get busy to fix it, I'm left with nothing apart from continuing to just allow life and listen and to respond. Even my emotions are things that I can respond to. So what is this emotion telling me? What do I need to do to support myself in this moment? So yeah, I believe that we all have faith because we all are connected to life, and that life and that faith continues is what enables us to continue to put one foot in front of another despite the chaos and the craziness of the world. I mean, if we think about it, without faith, could we survive at all? Could we exist at all? Would we even bother to continue on? I really don't think so. I mean, would we choose to procreate and create despite all things that we see on the news or all the things that we witness between human beings or that humans do in the world at all. But there is something which continues to urge us on, that a voice, a heartbeat, a rhythm of life that says live. And that is faith. That rhythm, that heartbeat, that push and urge to continue on despite everything, despite not knowing what tomorrow will bring. That push to live, to flourish, to thrive. That is faith. The stronger our connection is to that urge, to that heartbeat of life, the more we know we are not alone. And for me, that's all there is to it. When we know that there's this energy, there's this urge, this impulse towards life that exists and permeates through all things, how can we believe that we are alone? I'm getting a little bit emotional now. Now I realize something that I hoped whilst I was in Christianity, but I never truly believed or allowed myself to believe, which is that something is holding me. I'm not alone in the universe. I can hold on and wait for a better tomorrow. And to me, this is supernatural. Maybe not supernatural in the other way, like I mentioned, like mythic, godlike power to do amazing feats, but it feels supernatural because there's nothing in the physical that tells me this is truly, I feel it. I feel the truth of this deep inside of me. I feel the connection to life. I feel life deep inside of me. So in my last podcast episode, I spoke about embodiment, and I shared an experience that happened to me, which is part and parcel of, I guess, this journey of getting to this place where I've developed this realization of what faith feels like. And that experience was after I finished my a second job interview for the job that I'm currently in, after years of not working, after having my daughter and not wanting to go back into teaching because it just was so destructive for my soul, body, mind, spirit, everything. I just didn't want to go back there, and I'd applied for so many jobs, rejection after rejection after rejection, even though something inside of me knew that I just needed to be given a chance. I just needed somebody to say yes to me. So I had a second interview with this organization, charitable organization, and I just felt so aligned with their vision and their values and the work that they were doing. And I just really, really, really wanted the job. And I had so much inside of me, so much emotion. I felt like so much hinged on me getting this job. I felt like if I didn't get this job, that I just didn't know whether I'd have the energy or find the energy to apply, to keep on going through this process of applying. So I was full up of all this energy, and I felt like my body just couldn't contain it. I felt, I just didn't know what to do with it all. So I picked myself up, and I found myself in a local park, and I just let my body loose. And one of the things I did was I got down on my hands and knees, and I just connected my energy to the energy of the earth. And all the fear and the worry and the anxiety I had, I let it just pour out of me through my feet and my hands. And no word of a lie, I received back. I received back the most comforting, I can't even call it words, but it was like language, but no words. But I understood. Inside of me, I understood that I was being told that it was okay, and that no matter what happened, I would be okay. And that was what I needed, to know that I'd be okay and that I wasn't alone. If you've lived your life feeling alone, you'd have some idea of how powerful it is to have that experience. I think that and some other things have really opened up the way for me to understand that there is something more out there that I can rely on and trust in beyond myself, beyond what other people tell me from my own personal experiences. And the funny thing is that it's also allowed me to let go of some of the judgment, a lot of the judgment I've had around religion and Christianity and God and things like that, because I don't see religion or God as bad anymore. I don't. All of these things are created by people who are striving to feel more in control, people who are afraid, people who seek connection but feel disconnected, people who want to understand, people who want to be held and loved, feel cared for and validated. I heard a saying somewhere, I can't remember where, but it was something along the lines like the human desire for connection to the universe is spirituality. That whatever shape or form it takes, religion or indigenous spiritual practices, it's all the same desire to connect with life, to connect with the universe. That is spirituality. So yeah, this is where I am on my journey. And I hope that in sharing this with you, that I don't know, it gives you something. Don't know what that might be, but I hope that it nourishes you in some way, because it's definitely nourished me and freed me and brought healing to me, and it's an ongoing process. I don't want to give the impression that I feel or believe that I've arrived, because I definitely haven't. In many ways, I still feel like a hot mess, but I feel like a hot mess that is being held. Yeah. So I would love for you to continue to join me on this journey. I might not necessarily be talking specifically about deconstruction or deconditioning, but it will most likely still be a thread in what I have to say. I will talk a lot more about my experiences and what I'm learning. I mean, all of my posts tend to be quite personal anyway, personal reflection. But yeah, I'll be definitely talking a lot more about this sense of connection to life and embodiment, and yeah, all of those things. I don't even know right now all the things I will talk about, but there will be a felt shift in my writing. I just feel like that's what I want to focus on right now. So this will be the final episode. One thing that I haven't mentioned is that I've recently started coaching again, not seeing many people, just 2 people at a time or so. And it's not like spiritual direction, or it's not spiritual direction. It's kind of like, it's definitely my own brand of life coaching. If you are interested in finding out more, then I'll put a link to a document that you can read up more about it and see whether it's like a good fit for you. And if it is, then we can get the process started. And when some space comes up, then you can register and we can start our work together. Okay? Anyway, it's been huge to share this with you. It's been a blessing for me, and I hope it has been for you too.